Hey there, creepy peeps. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back. If you are returning, it's a creepy book club video, but it's gonna be a rant, so strap in. Before I get too far into this rant, I want to say thank you to my creepy patron peeps for your support of my channel. Thank you guys so much. If you want to find out the perks to being a creepy patron peep, you can follow that link in the description. It's a new month, which means it's creepy book club time. If you don't know already, or if you're new here, I have a book club. We're on Goodreads. The link is always in the description. Literally called Creepy Book Club. We read one horror book a month, and I usually post a video about it. Lately, they've been called the What I Read in insert month here. This one is going to be all about Flowers in the Attic because we need to talk about it. I have to give a trigger warning for this whole video. I'm going to be talking about some very triggering topics involving religion, torture and abuse, incest, and rape. So if any of those topics are triggering to you, I would not recommend you watching this. So our May Creepy Book Club pick this year was Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews. I'm not going to go in depth with the summary. I feel like even if you haven't read it or haven't seen the movie, everybody already knows the gist of this. 4 kids get locked away in an attic in their grandmother's house with the promise that they will eventually be let out when their grandfather passes away because he can't know about their existence. They end up locked away for 3 years, being tortured, abused, and starved by their grandmother, and there's incest. Yeah, everybody knows about this, I feel like. It was something I even knew about, and I had only ever seen the 1987 movie, which doesn't even have the incest. So, and I knew about this. I knew about it. This is a gothic horror classic. This has been adapted 2 times now. There is a Lifetime movie that came out in 2014, stars Heather Graham as Corinne and Kiernan Shipka as Kathy. I did watch it. I'll talk about the movies a little bit later on, and in a way, I was excited to read this book when I first started because it had been on my TBR forever. It's one that everybody knows and I hadn't read, so I was like, I was excited to read it. Let's get into this. First and foremost, the thing I want to mention that I had a gripe with is the most tame thing about this video is the writing, the dialogue specifically. The dialogue is so strange in this. Like literally anytime anybody talked, I'm like sitting there like, nobody talks like this. I know this book is set in the 50s, but I think even back then, nobody fucking talked like they do. And I found that a little bit odd, but it's honestly not the worst thing about the book. I found myself wondering, and this is when we're gonna get into all the tough topics here. I found myself wondering as I'm reading this because I was just so incredibly uncomfortable the whole way through. I thought once it got to like the incesty part would be the worst bit, but the whole family is just they behave very strangely with each other when it comes to affection. They definitely hold physical affection in high regard, and the way they talk to each other too is just, they're just going a little too far over the line of like what like family affection is. Like I was getting like the heebie-jeebies the whole time, and then of course once it gets into like them being locked in the attic and like the awful stuff that the grandmother does to them, like whipping them, pouring tar in Kathy's hair, it's just such a bleak book on top of the incest part. So I was like, the whole time I'm like wondering, what is the point of what's the point? What am I supposed to get out of this bleak and awful story? Because I'm sorry, I'm gonna spoil the ending here. It's nothing like the 80s movie. In the 80s movie, even though it's a little bit cheesy, they confront their mother and the mother ends up falling over a balcony and like hanging herself on her wedding veil. So she gets her comeuppance. The grandmother doesn't, but the mom Corinne definitely gets her comeuppance. Read through like 400 pages of just awful shit. And the kids manage to escape. They have the poisoned donut and the dead mouse as their evidence, but then Kathy's thinking, or was Chris thinking, as I was, that if we went to the police and told our story, our faces would be splashed on the front pages of every newspaper in the country? Would the glare of publicity make up for what we'd lose? Or privacy, or our need to stay together? Could we lose each other just to get even? So they decide to throw away the fucking mouse and poison donut in a trash can and go to Florida. Sarasota specifically, which is like 30 minutes from me, and jokes on them, it's awful there. So but then Chris says, "Come on, Kathy," called Chris, stretching forth his hand. "What's done is done. Say goodbye to the past and hello to the future. We're wasting time when already we've wasted enough. We've got enough ahead waiting for us." I'm sorry. Being locked up in an attic and starved and tortured, lied to and gaslit for 3+ years. I don't think that really, like, I don't think what's done is done, say goodbye to the past, really applies there. Then that's it. They walk off into the sunset and they're gonna go to Florida and find out how fucking awful it is here. To me, it just seems like this was just like a really bleak story for the sake of being a bleak story. Like, what were we supposed to get out of it? Like, puberty is tough? Like, the biggest hyperbole ever for puberty sucks. On top of that, like, as if that wasn't frustrating enough, we got to talk about the incest. Of course, because that's like the big thing about this book, right? Like I said, the 1987 film does not have it. There's nothing between Kathy and Chris going on in that film. The 2014 film does have it, to an extent. Obviously you don't see anything, but it's implied. There's the, you know, you see the after, and they kiss like once or twice in the movie. I knew that going in, and I thought that's all it was gonna be, and that shit seems like a weird ass sentence. I just thought it was gonna be incest. No, it's worse. It's like VC Andrews wrote that and somebody read it and was like, man, there's no way you can make that worse than it is. And she was like, hold my beer. Chris rapes her. On top of that, it's like the worst, just like this, the worst, strangest, most yucky scenario ever. So preceding this, Chris and Kathy have been sneaking out of the room to like steal money and jewels where they can in preparation for their eventual escape. One of these nights, Chris is ill and can't go out to steal stuff, so Kathy goes out on her own. And when she gets to their mother's room, she sees her new husband, Bart Winslow, sleep like in a chair. And because hormonal teenager, I don't know, she decides to plant one on him. She decides to kiss him. And he's asleep. So she's kind of like, I don't know why I did that, but at least he didn't notice. Later on, Chris goes out to steal stuff. He's hiding and he can overhear their conversation, and Bart is talking about how he had this dream of this young girl with blonde hair kissing him. And Chris puts 2 and 2 together and realizes that was Kathy. So he goes to Kathy, and at first he's like in the right for being angry. Like at first he goes to her and he's like, why did you do that? You could have been caught. And but then I'm laughing to hide my discomfort. So this is all from Kathy's POV, so I'm gonna read a little bit here. This wasn't Chris. This was someone I'd never seen before. Primitive, savage. He yelled out something like, "You're mine, Kathy, mine. You'll always be mine. No matter who comes into your future, you'll always belong to me. I'll make you mine tonight, now." And then what you imagine happens. Then it gets worse. This is also part example of like the very strange dialogue. Tight as I could, I wrapped my arms around him. "I don't hate you, Chris," I whispered, pressing my head tightly against his chest. "You didn't rape me. I could have stopped you if I'd really wanted to. All I had to do was bring my knee up hard where you told me to. It was my fault too. Oh yes, my fault too. I should have known better than to kiss Mama's handsome young husband. I shouldn't have worn the skimpy little see-through garments around a brother who had all a man's strong physical needs, and a brother who was always so frustrated by everything and everyone. I had played upon his needs, testing my femininity, having my own burning yearnings for fulfillment. I'm sorry, I can't even finish the fucking sentence. It's not bad enough that it's just incest, it's rape. And then Kathy victim blames herself. That's her in her head listing all the reasons why it's her fault. It's just, why? That's my big issue with it. I mean, I have an issue with all of that just in general, but maybe somebody can correct me in the comments or give me some insight. Maybe I'm just too frustrated and grossed out to like see clearly. But what's the point of it? That's my problem, is that it's this like uncomfortable, disgusting, bleak situation, and there is seemingly no point to it, rather than it just being like an extremely unfortunate byproduct of them being locked up in the attic while they both hit puberty. I didn't enjoy reading this. I hated it the entire time. I didn't realize how uncomfortable it was going to make me for the whole of the book. I think I gave it a 2-star on Goodreads. That's it. June book is The Devil Aspect by Craig Russell. So you can pick that up if you want to. It's not terribly long, 400 pages, so about the same as this. So that's everything. This was a long video. If you enjoyed the video, for how, you know, for what it's worth, if you could give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out. Thank you for watching all of this. If you're new here or if you've been lurking, subscribe, become a creepy peep today. I post videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And yeah, thank you for listening to me talk. I'll talk to you very, very soon. Until then, stay strange. Bye.